Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with End Time Ministries, and I thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the End Time Show. Wow, is there so much going on in the news right now? It's hard to keep up with, actually. And thank you for everyone that sends me all of the content and articles and different videos and things from all over the world to help us keep up to date on these things, because, wow, I mean, we are moving very fast right now, right through the end time. We're staring at the second coming of Jesus Christ just before us now, folks. I know we've talked about that for years. My father-in-law, Irvin Baxter, talked about that for decades. But we're there. I mean, we're just a few years away from this stuff. And I'm not throwing out any dates or anything like that, because I'm never going to do that. But the thing is, when we see these prophecies that are written in the Bible and the events that correlate with them being fulfilled in the news every day, we've got to talk about that, because there are still people questioning whether we are even in the end time. So, let me go down through here and I'll give you this end time scenario, and I'll give you a lot of articles and different things showing you how to prove to your friends, family, your sphere of influence that we are in fact in the end time, because we're watching it right now. Revelation chapter 6, verse 1 through 8. It's the first four seals. It gives a depiction of horses that there was a white horse, a red horse, a black horse, and John said a pale horse. We actually said green. In the Greek, it was written green, chloros. But the translators translated it pale, like in a King James Version. If you were to read a Tyndale Bible, it would say green. But the King James Version says pale. Well, it should have been translated green. So there's a white, red, black, and green horse. The original word Greek, chloros, which is green. And a lot of people have said, well, these are physical horses that will run across the earth someday and kill people, and, there's going to be horrible destruction. That's not necessarily the case. If you go back to Zechariah chapter 6, verse 1 through 8, it tells us that these are spirits that go forth from the heavens into all the earth. So, these spirits that are these horses that are symbolic of spirits, they have colors, and the colors help us to identify these spirits. The white spirit is Catholicism. The red spirit, socialism or communism, working in our world today. The black spirit, capitalism, and the green spirit, Islamism. Now, this is a 2,000-year-old prophecy. Zechariah is close to a 2,500-year-old prophecy. And these events are playing out in our world right now. Get this, folks. The Jewish News Syndicate, one of the major news sources in Israel, they published an article, Islamists and progressives form a red-green alliance against the individual. Get that? The red-green. Remember the spirits that will control the ideologies of mankind in the end time, according to Bible prophecy? White, red, black, green? Well, listen at this. I'm quoting from the article. American Jews and Muslims are under threat from a bizarre partnership between radical progressives and Islamists. Listen at this, folks. The Red-Green Alliance. This movement was named in Europe red for socialism, green for Islam, and has since gained a firm foothold in the United States, despite vast disagreements on everything from women's issues to religious pluralism. These strange bedfellows have managed to unite around a commitment to values including anti-Zionism and anti-capitalism. This partnership has developed to the extent that Islamist organizations and leaders in the U.S. are increasingly seen as an integral part of the progressive movement. Now, folks, John and Zechariah prophesied 2,000 to 2,500 years ago that there would be four spirits that would control the main spirits that would control the ideologies of mankind in the end time. White, Catholicism; red, socialism or communism; black, capitalism; and green, Islamism. This article from the Jewish News Syndicate, which is not a religious organization, by the way, it's just a news source in Israel, they talked about, they wrote an article about the red socialism, the green Islamism, these two spirits uniting together in the end time. Also, the Jacobin magazine, the leading socialist voice in the United States, the Jacobin magazine published an article, The Red and the Black. They said, profit is the motor of capitalism, the black spirit. What would it be under socialism? Red. Now, folks, these are articles that were written recently, but yet they're telling us exactly what the Bible says is going to be in play just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ. In looking at this right here, these are all playing out. And when you go to Revelation 6, verse 1 through 8, it gives all kinds of very specific clues that helps you to identify these spirits. White Catholicism, red socialism, communism, black capitalism, and green Islamism. Now, we're here in 2023. These are 2,000 to 2,500-year-old prophecies coming to pass as we speak. These things are supposed to be in power and functioning just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now, I know I'm going to come up to a break here. I don't want to cut this next segment short, but most of you know that the Bible prophesies in the book of Luke about an increase in the LGBTQIA plus lifestyles in society in the end time. The Bible says, just as it was when the day that Lot come up out of Sodom, that's how it would be in society at the time when the Son of Man will be revealed. Every sexual desire, every perverse lifestyle is just going to be rampant in society. Boy, have we seen that. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to go through several articles, and we're going to go through a big end-time scenario here today on the program. And I'm going to lay all this out, showing you proof after proof we are in fact living in the end time. These prophecies are over 2,000 years old, and we're living through them as we speak. And so we're in the end time. Why are we teaching these things? Because we're trying to prepare you for the second coming of Jesus Christ. It's just ahead of us. Yes, we're right there, and there should be a sense of urgency in you. Well, what do I do, Dave? We're going to get you involved in a good Bible-believing, Bible-teaching church. We're going to get you born again. We're going to get you trusting in the Lord, putting your hope and faith and trust in Him throughout these end times so you can make it when He comes back.
As soon as you say end time, they say, whoa, the end of the world. When's it going to be? And you can see this mask of fear. I'm not telling you the end time is coming. I'm telling you, you live in it right now. Daniel chapter number 7, verse number 4. The first beast was like a lion. We have the evil used continually to depict the United States of America. You see it on governmental documents. We are the generation for which these that you will not miss one segment of understanding the end time, because I've had many people tell me it's changed their life forever. Many of the major prophecies of the Bible are given to us 2, 3, some of them as high as 4 or 5 times. There is not any chance it's not going to happen, because it's in your Bible, it's prophesied, and the prophecies always come back.
So, ask yourself this, is there an increase in the LGBTQIA plus lifestyle in society today? Well, consider this. The Pennsylvania Family News Source, they published an article. The NCAA, that would be what would that be? A National Collegiate Athletic Association. Excuse me. The NCAA abandons female athletes and allows biological males to compete in women's sports. Now, just that headline right there, folks. When I was in high school, I graduated in 1986. If you would have told me that they would have allowed men, high school guys, a lot of my friends played on the football team, and I mean, big guys. I'm 6'3", right now I weigh about 270. And if you'd have said to me, you can play, now I would have never done this. None of my friends would have. But there may have been some guys that said, well, yeah, I'd love to play on the girls' basketball team or, swim team, because they dominate. Because there's no such thing as a man that was born a male that can turn into a woman. That just doesn't happen. Now let's be honest here, folks. It doesn't happen. A lot of people have a lot of different ideas and things like that, but that's not possible. If you're born a man, you're a man. You're born a woman, you are a woman. God created two genders, that's it. Okay? But the National Collegiate Athletic Association is allowing biological men to compete in women's sports. I saw a video the other night of a men's team that played a women's team in basketball. It's on YouTube. You can go watch it. And they beat the women's team by 105 points, folks. And because all the guys were like 6'5", 6'9", and the women were like about 5'8", 5'9", maybe some of them were 6'1". It was, we're not designed to be the same. God designed us to be different. But yet the NCAA thinks that biological males, if they decide they're a woman, should be able to compete in women's sports. Well, it's a travesty. Well, another article, the ACLU in the Southern California. Listen at this topic of this article. The rights of the transgender and non-binary people in gyms and spas. I'm quoting from the article, just an excerpt. Visiting gyms and spas can be an essential part of maintaining physical and mental health. The California ACLU affiliates are working to ensure that gyms and spas are inclusive and respectful of everyone's gender identity. They ask these questions. Can a gym or spa deny a transgender individual service or exclude them from gender-segregated spaces because they are transgender or non-binary? Here's the answer by the ACLU in California. No. Under the UNRRA Civil Rights Act, business establishments in California may not deny anyone full and equal accommodations, advantages, facilities, privileges, or services because of their sex, gender, gender identity, or gender expression, as well as other traits like race, national origin, religion, and disability. This means people who are transgender or non-binary have the right to full and equal participation in gyms or spa experience, including access to, if it's a male who decides he's a woman, complete total access to other spaces based on their gender identity, locker rooms included. Okay, I had to take a deep breath on that one, but it gets worse. Number 2, the ACLU of California says, the question is, does a transgender individual have the right to use the bathroom, or I should say restroom and locker room that match their gender identity, not their gender how they were born, that God created them. Looking at their genitalia. But how they identify. The ACLU in California says, Yes, you do have a right to those locker rooms and bathrooms. You have the right to use the gender-segregated facilities, including restrooms and locker rooms, that correspond with how you identify, gender identity. Regardless of your assigned sex at birth, a gym or a spa cannot force you to use facilities that do not correspond with your gender identity or deny you access to facilities that do correspond with your gender identity. Now, folks, the Bible says that there will be people that just did not like to receive a love for the truth. They wanted to put God, they didn't like to retain God in their knowledge. The Bible says there's two genders. Nature tells us there's two genders. But the Bible says, just like it was in the days of Lot when he came up out of Sodom, every sexual whim, every sexual desire, that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be rampant in society. Have we seen that? The Washington Free Beacon published an article. California's female prisoners feel threatened by transgender inmates. I mean, can it get any worse? I mean, imagine being a female in a prison and they open the door to the cell and say, here's your new cellie. And this guy who is 6'5", you're 5'2", weigh 110 pounds. A guy 6'5", weighs 285, steps into the cell and they shut the cell door. Now this is what's happening, folks. This is reality in 2023. The Bible says, just as it was in the days of Lot. Read the story of Lot. Most of us would say that would never happen in America, not in 2023. We're a developed nation. But it's happening. The Bible says, Washington Free Beacon says that the state of California does not care. Listen to an excerpt from this article. Female inmates in California's prisons have been sexually assaulted by male inmates, they would consider themselves transgender, who identify as women. In response, the state has tightened restrictions on biologically female prisoners. But listen to this. Since 2021, California has allowed 47 male prisoners who identify as transgender or non-binary, many of whom do not even attempt to appear female, to transfer to women's prison. While the state has not disclosed how many of these male transfers have attacked female prisoners, a legal challenge from female inmates reviewed by the Washington Free Beacon reveals that the troubling real-world impact of California's progressive policy. Folks, the states that have allowed this are shocked when a female prisoner comes up pregnant. They're shocked at that because the individual coming in is supposed to be a woman, a transgender. A guy who was in a male prison came over into a female prison, and then the state is shocked when women start coming up pregnant. Now, are we living in the end times? That's my thing here today. An increase in LGBTQIA plus activity, agendas being pushed, lifestyles in our world at the time of the coming of the Son of Man. Folks, we're living in the end time. The last one on this topic, the Daily Signal. I've got hundreds of them. The Daily Signal published an article. Kindergarten through 12th grade schools are bringing in drag queens to teach gender ideology. Gender ideology. Now, do you think that they're going to learn the biblical teaching of two genders? Absolutely not. Come on, let's not fool ourselves here. They're being taught a gender ideology that little Susie, little Tommy, you can decide what you want to be. And then everybody in society needs to call you they, them, theirs, not she or he, because that's against societal norms now, right? Folks, this is what's going on in 2023. These are certainly precursors to the second coming of Jesus Christ. These are things, these are prophecies leading up to that. It's getting much worse. And thankfully, there's a way out. For everybody in those situations, there's a way out, and that's Jesus Christ. There is a hope for everybody living in those lifestyles that you can come out of that. They're trying to criminalize the treatment for that, where you would go into a therapist or something and try to transition out of that ideology and to come into a biblical marriage or a biblical relationship or a biblical mindset. Hey, I'm a man, or I'm a woman, or this female is a woman, and oh, hey, wait a minute, I can define a woman. It is an adult female who has reproductive organs, able to have a child. That's the definition of a woman. But yet there are people who are on the Supreme Court now of the United States who cannot define what a woman is. There are doctors and lawyers and people all over the United States now that say, I don't know, I can't define a woman. Folks, this is where we're at, and these things are going to be the mindset of some people. The Bible says it will be. Just prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ, we absolutely are living in the end time.